Hey everyone, we are coming to you from Luxembourg today. You can see the Moselle River behind us, and we have come to visit my sister who lives in Luxembourg and has for 20 years. About that, yeah, we lose track of time around here, but we've been a couple of times before, but we know that Luxembourg isn't actually in most people's consciousness most of the time, so we thought it would be a fun little visit and show you guys around somewhere that maybe you don't see everywhere.
Funny thing is, we are in Luxembourg, but what you're seeing behind us on the other side of the banks is actually Germany, because Luxembourg borders Belgium, Germany, and France. It's a small duchy. One of the last duchies, I think, in the world, and I'm sure we'll get to more of that later, but there you go. It's an absolutely stunning day. We're about to have some wonderful lunch, and we'll bring you more.
My introductions were terrible, so you will see my sister Lisa, my niece Cassandra, and her husband Dirk. And here's some images from MapFight telling you just how big Luxembourg is or isn't. And for our American viewers, yes, it's smaller than Rhode Island.
This is friture de la Moselle.
Right.
Which is a typical dish on the Moselle River,
right,
which is where we are right now. I have never eaten it before, actually. So.
Well, it looks intriguing anyway. Enjoy. I elected for the half chicken, and that is a half chicken.
I think we can do that later, no? Later? Yeah.
Okay.
So we've just had a lovely drive through Luxembourg, and now we are on the Moselle. So this is the river that is the border between Germany and Luxembourg. So across the river, actually looking at Germany. So we have met up with Sara's family. It's Sara's niece and her sister enjoying on the Moselle River. Watching a wonderful big barge go by, actually.
After lunch and the walk, we went for a little sightseeing tour.
Is that the viaduct there?
Mm-hmm. That's the Red Bridge. It's the Duchess Charlotte Bridge, but everybody calls it the Route Bridge.
Right.
And now they've got a law in Luxembourg. I think it's a law, not a directive, but some kind of where if you build a new building that's multi-story, it has to be multi-use, so offices, residences, and shops in the bottom, because they're trying to make it easier to live and work.
Right.
Like in the old town, like it used to be, so people can get to their, places of work without having to drive all the time.
Yeah.
This is our sports center, which is awesome. It has a wave pool for kayaking. It has an Olympic-sized pool. It has a sports arena. The Dalai Lama came and spoke there, and I think 20,000 people showed up. And it's called, you will love this, Le Coq. This is the National Bank on both sides of the street, and this is called Place de Metz, which is a town about 40 minutes south of there.
So we talked about the fact that Luxembourg is a Grand Duchy,
Yes.
and that the Grand Duke is in fact he is a figurehead but can occasionally be more than a figurehead.
Yes.
He did ask to be directly involved in politics, which is unusual for monarchies these days.
It's true. It's true.
Yes. Maybe you could tell us the story about the healthcare change that happened.
Yes, sure. So, what happened was people found out that maybe the doctors were being a bit liberal with their old folks, and when they got to a point where maybe the quality of life was affected, the doctors were making decisions on their own. And the government, of course, felt that that wasn't the best course of action. So they proposed a law for euthanasia where people could sign a paper and give it to their doctor saying, if, these 3 things happen to me, if I gotta go this way. If I lose the quality of my life or, whatever, I give you permission to use euthanasia to put me out of my misery. Unfortunately, the Duke is the head of the church, the Catholic Church in Luxembourg, he, did not agree with the euthanasia law. And so they had a discussion with the Duke and the government, and the Duke said, well, I'll have to step down then because I don't agree with this law. And so the Duke stepped down, the government passed the law, and then the next day they went back and they begged the Duke, please come back and take your space. We are lost without you, please.
We need your guidance. Yeah.
Reclaim your throne. And so the Duke did. The Duke came back and reclaimed his throne. So the law for euthanasia was passed and put into
And when
practice.
was this?
I want to say maybe 10 years ago, but
Yeah,
don't
so
quote me
fairly
on it.
recently.
Oh, yeah, in the last few years. Now we're coming across, this is called the viaduct, and to the right here is the Palais Judiciary. So it's where all the courts, etc., for Luxembourg are located. And beyond that, you can see the spires of the cathedral. And
So this is the older part of town.
this is the
obviously.
this is not the oldest part of town. It's called the Hauteville, which is like the second oldest part. The oldest part of town is Grund, which is, actually behind us now and below us.
Okay.
So,
Right.
And this is quite an old city, right? Like this.
oh yeah,
Like part of one of the times we were here, we did the Wenzelbach,
yes.
as in King Wenzel. You guys would all know from the old Christmas carol, Good King Wenceslas.
Oh yeah. It is. So as a delightful treat, we are actually going to go for a wine tasting at Bernard-Massard, which is right on the banks of the Mosel. Beautiful spot.
We did get permission to film, but it is a paid tour, so we won't give you every detail. But the lovely guide took us through their bottling process and the rotation, how it goes from horizontal to vertical, but of course not one bottle at a time, more in the giant stacks that you see. And then she took us through how the wine is aged in the barrels, and then eventually how it is stored and transferred to bottling. It was actually quite an interesting tour, and I learned a couple of things along the way. This winery produces about 4 million bottles a year, and so it's a good size. It's sold throughout Luxembourg and is quite popular. This is the giant storage tank just before it goes for bottling. They talked us through the history of how it was done before mechanization. And yes, these would have all been turned a quarter turn, one at a time, and that would have taken quite some time. They had some of the old bottling machinery. That was really fun. The old corks used to work.
Bernard-Massard is so popular in Luxembourg?
Because it tastes good.
Yeah.
Last year was the centennial year for the winery, and it actually remains in the same family as the group that started it, which is really interesting. They have ducal ascent, which is the equivalent of royal ascent, and a couple of smaller terroirs for individual production. And then, of course, there's the tasting at the end. Cheers, everyone.
Santé.
This is a castle from the 1300s that is just on top of a gorgeous hill, and you can kind of see why they called it unassailable, because nobody is getting to this place. Anybody who does get here, they are seeing them coming for a long time. It's beautiful up here.
Yes, you can kind of imagine. You can kind of imagine even trebuchets and things having that moment of.
Yeah.
Damn
and
it.
the guys up here just going,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. You
It's
cannot
not
get
getting
to
anywhere
us.
near.
Yeah.
150-meter cliff that we're
Right.
that we're on. So yeah, that's
Unassailable is basically the perfect word.
yeah.
There's something about looking at these ruins and you kind of imagine what they might have been like before, but it's really hard to imagine them as warm and cozy at this point. And at that point, I really feel for the families that lived up here, or the, you know, women who were trying to make a good existence up here. Absolutely gorgeous little house that we are told is 1300s, mid-late 1300s, and there's a surprising number of windows for 1300s, I would say. It speaks to some degree of wealth, I think, of the family that built here. Absolutely loving this tower. Obviously it was connected to the fortified defenses at some point, but it just has a very cool look to it now.
It's like something out of Harry Potter.
A little bit, yeah. Clearly at its richest and most populated. Speaks to some pretty wealthy owners if this was the sort of things that were found on site while they did the archaeology. What do you guys think of these terracotta gold rimmed chalices? I actually kind of dig them. But I'm guessing they're not everybody's taste. Maybe it's a good chance to leave us a comment and tell us what you think. Would you have those around your table? How about the champagne bottles, holders? For all that we said this was unassailable, apparently these pieces were found around the chateau from around 1760. So if you did get close, you could kind of expect one of these to knock you on the head sometime soon. That would not be pleasant. They have a couple of rooms you can rent in this chateau for little soirees. There's one here and there's one upstairs. These look like really great whiskey tasting rooms. Have some of that. This room is beautiful. This is the cooking cellar, we think, according to the signs, but it's just gorgeous vaulted ceilings and literally carved out of the, I don't even know if you counts as bedrock on top of a hill, but the local slate. It's so gorgeous.
Started to rain, but it's still an absolutely stunning view from up here. Absolutely gorgeous. We've come to castle number 2 on our tour. This is Viendon Castle, and you see the village down below of Viendon. And yes, it's still raining, but we're gonna go and tour around anyway. It looks like a spectacular little spot. Hey guys, so we are now at Viendon Castle. Did I get that right? Yep. All right, excellent. Which is actually one of the largest castles in Europe, apparently. Built on Roman fortifications and dates from the 11th to 12th century.
Yeah, 11th to 14th, and it's the largest, one of the largest feudal castles.
Feudal castles, right, there you go. Fantastic, so let's show you around.
There's been something on this site for the better part of 2,000 years. It was also occupied by the Romans, but after its sort of heyday, it fell into disrepair and ruin, and the state took it over. And in areas like this, you can really see where the restoration was done to kind of preserve and rebuild what had been damaged throughout the years. But you can also see the dominant position it has.
So we're working on one of the ramparts here, and I'm thinking if you're under a barrage of arrows here, you don't have a lot of space. You're kind of...
Watch out with this arrows coming, duck! Look at the medieval colors they have used in here to really bring this space to life in the restoration. This is fantastic. I love this. Yes, we need costumed people in here. Yes, we do. Please and thank you. Everyone sitting here doing your needlework. I'll make you a cushion. This gives you a pretty good idea of how much restoration was done and how much disrepair has happened between 1600 1820, where everything's fallen into quite a bit of disrepair, and the amount of restoration that was done by 2018. That's pretty impressive. You guys know how much I am enjoying this display and how they're integrating the material into the display along with the artifacts or the reproductions of the artifacts that they found at this burial. I am just so in love with this whole display and the care they've taken with it. Fantastic. Okay, you guys have got to know how much I am loving this castle visit at this point. There are just costumes everywhere, and lovely ones too. Creaky floors. Look at this. Beautiful. Alright, besides fabulous towers, you will see in the middle there, they also have a chairlift that goes from the little snack shop bar down into town, so you can go up or down, buy one-way or two-way tickets into actual Viendon. That's fun. This has to be one of the most complicated well structures I've seen in a while. Certainly beats ours. But really, you don't want to drop your phone. Love it. Welcome to the pub.